The clock on the dashboard showed 9:47 p.m. when Marcus Williams turned onto Maple Grove Road. The street was quiet, lined with old oak trees that blocked most of the streetlights. Marcus had taken this route home 1,000 times. After 15 years as a judge in Charlotte, North Carolina, he knew every turn, every stop sign, every bump in the road. Marcus was tired. It had been a long day at the courthouse. He had heard 7 cases, reviewed dozens of documents, and spent 2 hours in meetings about court procedures. All he wanted was to get home to his wife Elena, eat the dinner she had saved for him, and maybe watch something mindless on television before bed. His car was nothing special. It was a 4-year-old Honda Accord, dark blue, clean but not fancy. Marcus had never been the type to show off. Even though he had a good job and could afford something nicer, he liked being practical. Elena often joked that he was the only judge in North Carolina who drove a car with cloth seats. The radio played soft jazz as Marcus drove. He was thinking about tomorrow's cases when he noticed the headlights behind him. They were bright, too bright, the kind that comes from a vehicle sitting high off the ground. Marcus glanced in his rearview mirror. It was a police cruiser. Marcus did not worry at first. Police cars were everywhere in this part of town. He was not speeding. His registration was current. His insurance was paid. He had nothing to hide. The cruiser followed him for about 30 seconds. Then the red and blue lights came on. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He knew this feeling. Every black man in America knew this feeling. It did not matter that he was a judge. It did not matter that he had a law degree from Duke University. It did not matter that he had spent his entire career upholding the law. When those lights came on behind you at night, none of that mattered. He took a deep breath and put on his turn signal. He pulled over slowly and carefully, making sure to stop in a well-lit area under a streetlight. He rolled down all 4 windows of his car. He turned off the radio. He placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, where they could be clearly seen. These were the things his father had taught him when he was 16 years old. These were the things he had taught his nephew last year. The police cruiser stopped behind him. Marcus watched in the side mirror as the door opened. The officer who stepped out was white, tall, and broad-shouldered. He wore the standard uniform of the Charlotte Police Department. He walked toward Marcus's car with his hand resting on his belt near his weapon. Marcus kept his hands on the wheel. He did not move. The officer reached the driver's window and shined his flashlight directly into Marcus's face. Marcus squinted but did not raise his hand to block the light. That would be a mistake. "License and registration," the officer said. His voice was flat, cold. He did not say good evening. He did not explain why he had pulled Marcus over. "Yes, sir," Marcus said calmly. "My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. My registration is in the glove compartment. I am going to reach for them now. Is that okay?" The officer stepped back slightly. "Go ahead, slowly." Marcus moved carefully. He reached for his wallet with his right hand, keeping his left hand visible on the wheel. He pulled out his driver's license. Then he leaned toward the glove compartment, opened it slowly, and found his registration and insurance card. He handed everything to the officer through the window. The officer took the documents and shined his flashlight on them. He studied Marcus's license for a long moment. His expression did not change. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" the officer asked. "No, sir," Marcus said. "I do not. Your taillight is broken." Marcus blinked. "My taillight?" "That's right. Officer, I just had my car inspected 2 weeks ago. Both taillights were working fine." The officer's jaw tightened. "Are you arguing with me?" "No, sir. I am just confused. I was not aware of any problem with my car." The officer looked at Marcus's license again. "Marcus Williams," he read aloud. "What do you do for work, Mr. Williams?" Marcus hesitated. He knew what often happened when he told people he was a judge. Some people did not believe him. Others changed their attitude completely. He decided to tell the truth. "I am a judge, sir. I work at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse." The officer laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. "A judge?" "Sure you are." "I am, sir. I have been a Superior Court judge for 8 years. "Right. And I am the governor of North Carolina." The officer leaned down closer to the window. "You got any proof of that? Or are you just making things up?" Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would not help. "My judicial ID is in my wallet. Would you like to see it?" Step out of the car, the officer said suddenly. Marcus's heart began to beat faster. Sir, may I ask why? Because I told you to. Step out of the car now. Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt slowly. He opened the door and stepped out onto the pavement. The night air was cool. He could hear crickets in the grass nearby. The officer's cruiser lights painted everything in flashes of red and blue. Turn around. Hands on the car. Marcus did as he was told. He placed his palms flat on the roof of his Honda. The metal was cool under his hands. He felt the officer pat him down, checking his pockets, his waist, his ankles. You got anything on you I should know about? Weapons, drugs? No, sir, nothing. We'll see about that. The officer stepped back. You fit the description of someone who robbed a convenience store about an hour ago. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. There it was. The excuse. The reason that was not a reason. What description is that, officer? Black male, average height, driving a dark-colored sedan. That description could fit thousands of people in Charlotte, Marcus said quietly. Don't get smart with me. The officer's voice had an edge now. I can search this vehicle if I want to. You got a problem with that? Marcus knew the law. The officer did not have probable cause to search his car. A broken taillight, even if it were true, was not enough, and the vague description of a robbery suspect was not enough either. But Marcus also knew that the law on paper and the law on the street were sometimes two different things. I do not consent to a search, Marcus said carefully, but I will not physically resist if you choose to search anyway. Before the officer could respond, another police cruiser pulled up behind the first one. Marcus felt a small amount of relief. A witness. Someone else would see what was happening. The second officer got out of her car. She was Asian American, shorter than the first officer, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She walked toward them with a curious expression on her face. Everything okay here, Derek? She asked. So the first officer's name was Derek. Fine, Chen. Just a routine stop. Broken taillight. Officer Chen walked around to the back of Marcus's car. She looked at the taillights. Both were working perfectly. Marcus saw her frown. She walked back to where Derek stood. Both lights look fine to me. Well, I saw one flickering, Derek said quickly. Officer Chen looked at Marcus for the first time. Her eyes widened slightly. Marcus saw recognition flash across her face. She knew who he was. Sir, she said to Marcus. Are you Judge Williams? I am, Marcus said. Chen turned to Derek. Derek, this is Judge Marcus Williams. From Superior Court. I have testified in his courtroom. Derek's face did not change. I don't care if he says he's the president. I pulled him over for a reason and I'm going to complete my traffic stop. Marcus remained silent. He kept his hands on the car. The situation was getting worse, not better. And he knew that the most dangerous thing he could do right now was fight back. In the distance, Marcus saw a porch light turn on in one of the nearby houses. Someone was watching. Officer Chen looked uncomfortable. She glanced at Derek, then at Marcus, then back at Derek again. Marcus could see she was trying to figure out what to do. She knew Derek was wrong. The taillights worked fine. Marcus was a judge. This stop should not be happening, Derek, Chen said quietly. Maybe we should just let him go. There is no violation here. Derek ignored her. He walked around Marcus's car, shining his flashlight through the windows. He was looking for something, anything, that would justify what he was doing. Marcus watched him without moving his hands from the car roof. You keep this car pretty clean, Derek said. It sounded like an accusation. Maybe too clean. What are you hiding? I am not hiding anything, Marcus said. His voice was steady, but inside he was angry. He had done nothing wrong. He was on his way home from work. He had spent the day serving justice, following the law, treating people with respect. And now he was standing on the side of the road with his hands on his car like a criminal. More porch lights were turning on now. Marcus could see people coming out onto their front steps. Someone was holding up a phone, recording. Good, Marcus thought. Let them record. Let them see. Derek noticed the phones too. His expression hardened. Everyone go back inside. This is police business. No one moved. The people stayed on their porches. The phones stayed up. Derek walked back to Marcus. I am going to need you to empty your pockets. Put everything on the hood of the car. Officer, you do not have probable cause to search me or my vehicle, Marcus said. He kept his voice calm and professional. I have committed no crime. I have no outstanding warrants. I have broken no traffic laws. My taillights are functioning properly, as Officer Chen has confirmed. Are you a lawyer now? Derek sneered. I'm a judge, Marcus said. I know the law. Your fancy words do not scare me, Derek said. He stepped closer. Marcus could smell coffee on his breath. Out here, I am the law. You understand that? Chen stepped forward. Derek, seriously? We should go. This is not a good stop. Derek whirled on her. I did not ask for your opinion, Chen. If you cannot back me up, go wait in your car. Chen did not move. I am not going anywhere. And I am telling you, as a fellow officer, this stop is wrong. Judge Williams has done nothing to warrant this treatment. Maybe you are too soft, Derek said. That is your problem. You see a nice car and a suit and you forget that criminals come in all shapes and sizes. Judge Williams is not a criminal, Chen said firmly. Derek turned back to Marcus. Show me your ID, your judicial ID. If you really are a judge, prove it. Marcus slowly reached for his wallet again. He pulled out his judicial identification card. It had his photo, his name, his title, and the seal of the North Carolina court system. He handed it to Derek. Derek studied the ID card for a long time. Marcus watched his face. He saw doubt creep in, then stubbornness. Derek did not want to be wrong. He did not want to admit that he had pulled over a judge for no reason. So he looked for a way to make the ID card wrong instead. How do I know this is real? Derek said. Anyone can make a fake ID. You can call it in, Marcus said. Dispatch can confirm my identity. Derek hesitated. Then he walked back to his cruiser. Marcus heard him talking on his radio, but could not make out the words. Chen stayed near Marcus. I'm sorry about this, Judge Williams, she said quietly. This should not be happening. But it is happening, Marcus said. And we both know why. Chen looked down. She did not argue. They both knew the truth. Derek had pulled Marcus over because he was a black man driving a car in a nice neighborhood at night. Everything else was just an excuse. They waited. The neighbors stayed on their porches. The phones kept recording. Marcus kept his hands on his car. His arms were starting to ache, but he did not move them. He knew that any sudden movement could be seen as a threat. He had seen too many videos, heard too many stories, read too many reports. He knew how quickly these situations could turn deadly. Derek came back from his cruiser. His face was red. Marcus could tell that dispatch had confirmed who he was. Derek knew he had made a mistake. But instead of apologizing, instead of letting Marcus go, Derek got defensive. So you are a judge, Derek said. That does not put you above the law. I never said it did, Marcus replied. I still saw your taillight flicker. I still have the right to pull you over if I see a vehicle violation. Officer Chen already confirmed that both taillights are working properly, Marcus said. Maybe it stopped flickering, Derek said. Or maybe you fixed it real quick when you saw my lights. Either way, I am giving you a warning. A warning for what? Marcus asked. For having working taillights. Derek's jaw clenched. For your attitude. You have been difficult and argumentative since I pulled you over. I have been cooperative and respectful, Marcus said. I have answered all your questions. I have complied with all your requests. I have broken no laws. Are you trying to tell me how to do my job? Derek's voice was rising. Chen stepped between them. Derek, enough. Give him his documents back and let him go. There is nothing here. I decide when he goes, Derek snapped. No, Chen said. Her voice was hard now. We both decide. And I am telling you this stop is over. You have no cause to detain him further. Every second you keep him here is a violation of his rights. And it is all being recorded. She pointed to the neighbors with their phones. Derek looked at them, then at Chen, then at Marcus. Marcus could see the war happening inside Derek's head. He wanted to save face. He wanted to be right. But he knew he was cornered. Fine, Derek said. He threw Marcus's license and registration at him. The cards fell to the ground. Pick them up. Marcus bent down slowly and picked up his documents. He checked to make sure he had everything. You are free to go, Derek said. But I will be watching you. One wrong move, one mistake, and I will be there. Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. He got back into his car, started the engine, and pulled away slowly. He did not speed. He did not make any sudden moves. He just drove. In his rearview mirror, he saw Chen and Derek arguing. The neighbors were still on their porches. The phones were still recording. Marcus drove home. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. He took deep breaths, trying to calm down. He had been scared back there, truly scared in a way he had not felt in years. He was a judge. He was an educated man. He was respected in his community, and none of it had mattered. When he pulled into his driveway, he sat in the car for a moment. The house was dark except for the porch light and a lamp in the living room window. Elena was still awake waiting for him. He did not want to go inside. He did not want to tell her what had happened. But he knew he had to. Marcus got out of the car and checked his taillights. Both were working perfectly. Both were bright and red and showed no sign of any problem. Of course they were. There had never been anything wrong with them. He walked to the front door. His key rattled slightly in the lock because his hand was still shaking. The door opened before he could turn the key. Elena stood there in her pajamas and robe, her face worried. "Marcus, what happened? You are an hour late." Marcus walked inside and closed the door behind him. He locked it, then checked the lock twice. Elena watched him with growing concern. "Marcus, you are scaring me. What is wrong?" He sat down heavily on the couch. Elena sat beside him and took his hand. She gasped. "Your hands are freezing, and they are shaking. Marcus talked to me, so he told her. He told her about Derek pulling him over. He told her about the fake broken taillight. He told her about being ordered out of his car, about being treated like a criminal, about Derek refusing to believe he was a judge even when Chen confirmed it." As he talked, Elena's face changed. Worry became anger. Anger became fury. "That cop did what?" She stood up, her hands balled into fists. "He pulled you over for nothing? He made you get out of your car? He accused you of being a criminal?" "Elena," Marcus said quietly. "No." She was pacing now. No. You are a judge, Marcus. You are a superior court judge. You spend every day upholding the law, protecting people's rights, making sure justice is served. And some racist cop pulls you over and treats you like a criminal?" "I know," Marcus said. "We are filing a complaint. First thing tomorrow morning. I am calling the police chief personally. I am calling the mayor. I am calling everyone I know." Elena was a civil rights attorney. She had spent her career fighting cases like this. She had represented victims of police misconduct, racial profiling, excessive force. But this was different. This was her husband. "We need to think about this carefully," Marcus said. "There is nothing to think about." Elena's voice was loud now. "That cop violated your rights. He racially profiled you. He abused his authority. He needs to be held accountable." "I agree," Marcus said. "But we need to do this right. We need evidence. We need witnesses. We need a strategy." Elena stopped pacing. She looked at her husband. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped, the way his hands still trembled slightly. Her anger softened into something else, something sadder. She sat back down next to him and pulled him into a hug. Marcus rested his head on her shoulder. "I was scared," he said quietly. "I was really scared." "I know," Elena whispered. "I know you were." They sat like that for a long time. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Inside, Marcus tried to process what had happened to him and what it meant. Marcus did not sleep well that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Derek's face, heard Derek's voice, felt the cold metal of the car under his palms. He woke up several times, his heart racing, his body tense. Elena heard him each time and reached over to hold his hand in the darkness. When morning came, Marcus got up early. He made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. Elena found him there an hour later, still in his pajamas, staring at the screen. "How long have you been up?" she asked. "Since 5, Marcus said. I could not sleep." Elena looked at his screen. He had been reading articles about traffic stops, about police misconduct, about racial profiling. He had been looking at statistics, studies, reports. "We need to document everything," Marcus said. "While it is still fresh. Every detail. Everything he said, everything I said, what time it happened, where it happened, who was there." "I will help you," Elena said. She poured herself coffee and sat down across from him. "Tell me everything again, slowly. I will take notes." They spent the next 2 hours going over every detail of the traffic stop. Elena typed as Marcus talked. She asked questions, made him clarify times and exact words, created a detailed timeline of events. "Chen is a witness," Elena said. "She confirmed your taillights were working. She told Derek to let you go. She recognized you. Her testimony will be important." "She seemed like a good officer," Marcus said. "She knew it was wrong. And the neighbors who were recording, Elena continued. We need to find them. We need to get that footage. Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and frowned. It was his clerk from the courthouse. Judge Williams, the clerk said when Marcus answered. I am sorry to call you so early, but you need to see this. See what? Check your email. And check social media. The video from last night is everywhere. Marcus hung up and opened his email. His inbox was full. Messages from colleagues, from lawyers, from friends, from reporters. He opened one. It contained a link to a video. Elena came around the table to watch over his shoulder. Marcus clicked the link. The video started with a view of the street. The quality was not great, but you could clearly see Marcus's car pulled over with the police cruiser behind it, lights flashing. You could see Derek ordering Marcus out of the car. You could hear their voices, though not all the words were clear. The person recording had added text at the bottom of the video. Racist cop pulls over black judge for no reason. This is what racial profiling looks like. The video had been posted at 11:30 p.m. the night before. It already had over 50,000 views and hundreds of comments. Marcus scrolled through the comments. Some people supported him. Some people defended Derek. Some people argued with each other. It was a mess. This is going viral, Elena said. Marcus, everyone is going to know about this by the end of the day. Marcus's phone rang again. Then again. Then again. Reporters, colleagues, community leaders. Everyone wanted a statement. Everyone wanted to know what happened. Everyone wanted to know what Marcus was going to do about it. By 9 a.m., Marcus's phone had rung 30 times. By 10 a.m., there were news vans outside his house. Marcus and Elena stayed inside, watching through the curtains as reporters set up cameras on their lawn. You need to make a statement, Elena said. You cannot hide from this. The story is already out there. You need to control the narrative. I am not ready, Marcus said. You do not have a choice. If you stay silent, other people will tell your story for you, and they might not tell it right. Marcus knew she was correct. He took a shower, got dressed in a suit, and went outside to face the cameras. The reporters rushed toward him the moment he opened his front door. They shouted questions all at once. Marcus raised his hand for quiet. I will make a brief statement, he said. I will not take questions at this time. The cameras focused on him. Marcus looked directly into them. Last night I was pulled over by a Charlotte police officer while driving home from work. I was told my taillight was broken, but both taillights were functioning properly. I was ordered out of my vehicle. I was treated as a suspect despite having committed no crime. When I identified myself as a judge, the officer did not believe me. He suggested my judicial ID might be fake. He threatened to search my vehicle without probable cause. The entire interaction was unnecessary, inappropriate, and based on nothing more than the color of my skin. Marcus paused. The reporters were silent, hanging on every word. I am speaking out today not just for myself but for every person who has experienced this kind of treatment and did not have a platform to share their story. I am speaking out for every black driver who has been pulled over for no reason, who has been treated like a criminal, who has felt fear during a routine traffic stop. This should not happen to anyone. Not to me, not to you, not to anyone. He went back inside before the reporters could ask questions. Elena was waiting by the door. That was good, she said. That was really good. Marcus's phone rang again. This time it was a number he recognized. Chief Robert Morrison, head of the Charlotte Police Department. Judge Williams, the chief said. I just saw your statement. I want to apologize personally for what happened last night. Thank you, Chief, Marcus said. His voice was cold. I've already started an investigation into Officer Hollis's conduct. He has been placed on administrative leave effective immediately. I want you to know we take this very seriously. Do you? Marcus asked. Because according to what I have been reading this morning, Officer Hollis has had complaints filed against him before. Multiple complaints, all from black drivers. And yet he was still on the street last night, still pulling people over, still abusing his authority. There was silence on the other end of the line. I would like to meet with you, Chief Morrison said finally, today if possible. We need to discuss this situation. Fine, Marcus said. 2:00. At my office at the courthouse. I will be there, the chief said. Marcus hung up. Elena was looking at him with pride. You are not going to let this go, are you? She said. No, Marcus said. I am not. At noon, Marcus went to the courthouse. He walked through the halls where he had worked for 8 years. People stared at him. Some approached him to offer support. Others avoided eye contact, pretending they had not seen him. Marcus understood. Some of his colleagues were uncomfortable. They did not know what to say. They did not want to talk about race. They did not want to acknowledge that one of their own had been treated this way. In his office, Marcus found his law clerk waiting. Her name was Jennifer Kim, a young Korean-American woman in her second year of law school. She stood up when Marcus entered. "Judge Williams," she said, "I just wanted to tell you that I am proud of you. For speaking out, for not staying quiet." "Thank you, Jennifer," Marcus said. "When I was in college," Jennifer continued, "I was pulled over 3 times in 6 months. The officers always said it was a broken light or I did not use my turn signal or something small. But I think it was because I was a young Asian woman driving an old car in a rich neighborhood. I felt like I did not belong there. Like I was suspicious just for existing." Marcus nodded. "I am sorry that happened to you. I never reported it. I never told anyone except my parents. I thought no one would believe me, or they would say I was being sensitive, or they would tell me to just be grateful it was not worse." Jennifer looked at him directly. "But you have a voice. People will listen to you. So please keep talking, for people like me who could not." At 2 o'clock, Chief Morrison arrived. He came alone without any assistants or lawyers. That was smart, Marcus thought. This was not an official meeting. This was 2 men trying to figure out how to handle a difficult situation. They sat in Marcus's office. The chief looked uncomfortable in the wooden chair across from Marcus's desk. "I want to start by apologizing again," Chief Morrison said. "What Officer Hollis did was unacceptable." "Tell me about the other complaints," Marcus said. The chief shifted in his seat. "There have been 3 formal complaints filed against Officer Hollis in the past 4 years. All involved traffic stops of black drivers. In each case, the drivers claimed they were pulled over without proper cause and treated disrespectfully. And what happened to those complaints? They were investigated by Internal Affairs. In each case, Officer Hollis claimed he had legitimate reasons for the stop. The investigations concluded there was insufficient evidence to take disciplinary action." "Insufficient evidence," Marcus repeated, "or insufficient willingness to hold him accountable." Chief Morrison looked down. "I can only work with the system we have." "Then the system is broken," Marcus said. 3 complaints, all from black drivers, all claiming the same kind of treatment. "And you did nothing, so he kept doing it. And last night he did it to me." "You are right," the chief said quietly. "We should have done more. I should have done more. I'm not going to make excuses. We failed." Marcus was surprised by the admission. He had expected the chief to be defensive, to protect his department. Instead, Chief Morrison seemed genuinely troubled. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Officer Hollis is on administrative leave. Internal Affairs is conducting a full investigation. If they find he violated department policies, he will face disciplinary action up to and including termination." "And the other officers who ignored previous complaints, what happens to them?" "That is more complicated," the chief said. The Internal Affairs investigation moved quickly. Too quickly, Marcus thought. It felt rushed, like the department wanted to handle this before the media attention got worse. Within 1 week, investigators interviewed Marcus, Officer Chen, 3 neighbors who had recorded the stop, and Derek Hollis himself. Marcus sat across from 2 Internal Affairs investigators in a small conference room at the police department. They recorded everything he said. They asked him to repeat details multiple times. They showed him his own judicial ID and asked him to confirm it was real. The whole thing felt strange, like they were investigating him instead of Derek. "Can you describe Officer Hollis's demeanor during the stop?" one investigator asked. "He was aggressive from the start," Marcus said. "He did not explain why he pulled me over. He did not treat me with basic courtesy. When I told him I was a judge, he laughed at me. He called me a liar." "Did Officer Hollis use any racial slurs?" "No, he did not need to. His actions spoke clearly enough." The investigators wrote that down. They asked more questions. They asked about the taillight, about the alleged robbery suspect, about whether Marcus had been cooperative. After 2 hours, they thanked him and said they would be in touch. Elena filed a formal complaint the same day. She included witness statements from the neighbors who recorded the incident. She included Officer Chen's observations. She included expert analysis about racial profiling patterns. The complaint was 30 pages long and detailed every violation of policy, procedure, and Marcus's constitutional rights. Meanwhile, the story kept growing. Local news became national news. Major networks picked it up. Newspapers wrote editorials. Social media exploded with opinions. Some people called Marcus a hero. Others accused him of playing the race card. Some defended Derek as a good cop just doing his job. Others called for him to be fired immediately. Marcus tried to focus on his work at the courthouse, but it was impossible. Reporters called constantly. Strangers recognized him on the street. Some thanked him. Others glared. One man yelled at him in a parking lot, calling him a troublemaker who was trying to make all police look bad. 3 weeks after the traffic stop, the Internal Affairs investigation released its findings. Marcus read the report in his office with Elena looking over his shoulder. The report confirmed that Derek had violated multiple department policies. He had conducted a stop without proper cause. He had failed to treat a citizen with respect. He had ignored his fellow officers' concerns. He had made threats without legal authority. But the report also said something else. It said this was not Derek's first time. The report revealed that Internal Affairs had quietly investigated Derek twice before based on civilian complaints. Both times, the investigations had found minor policy violations, but no major discipline had followed. Derek had received written warnings and additional training, then returned to full duty. They knew, Elena said, her voice tight with anger. They knew he had problems and they did nothing. Marcus kept reading. The report included interviews with other officers who had worked with Derek. Some spoke carefully, like they were afraid to say too much. But others were more direct. One officer, who requested anonymity, said Derek regularly made racist comments in private. He called black suspects by slurs when no supervisors were around. He bragged about stopping black drivers in white neighborhoods. He said he was keeping the community safe from people who did not belong there. Officer Sarah Chen had given a detailed statement. She said she had worked with Derek on several occasions and had witnessed concerning behavior. She said Derek seemed to focus his attention on black and Hispanic drivers. She said she had reported her concerns to a supervisor once, but nothing had happened. She said she was afraid Derek would retaliate if she spoke up more strongly. The report's conclusion was clear. Officer Derek Hollis had engaged in racial profiling. He had violated department policy and citizens' constitutional rights. He had shown a pattern of discriminatory behavior. The report recommended termination. Marcus set down the report. He should have felt satisfied, vindicated, but he just felt tired. "This is good," Elena said. "This is exactly what we wanted, is it?" Marcus asked. "One officer gets fired." But what about the supervisors who ignored the complaints? What about the system that let him keep working even after multiple violations? What about all the other drivers he pulled over, who did not have a platform to fight back? Elena did not have an answer. The police union responded to the report immediately. They held a press conference defending Derek. The union president, a veteran officer named Tom Bradley, stood at a podium surrounded by other officers. "Officer Hollis is a decorated member of this department," Bradley said. "He has served the city for 12 years. He has made hundreds of arrests. He has put dangerous criminals behind bars, and now his career is being destroyed because he pulled over a car with a broken taillight, and the driver happened to be a judge who was looking for attention." The union was filing a grievance. They were demanding arbitration. They claimed Derek was being scapegoated for political reasons. They said the department was throwing good officers under the bus to appease activists. Marcus watched the press conference on television. He saw the officers standing behind Bradley, their faces angry and defiant. He wondered how many of them believed what Bradley was saying. He wondered how many of them pulled over black drivers for no reason and thought it was just good police work. That evening, Marcus received a phone call from a number he did not recognize. He almost did not answer, but something made him pick up. "Judge Williams?" The voice was female, young, nervous. "Yes, this is Judge Williams. My name is Alicia Thompson. I saw your story on the news. I saw what happened to you, and I need to tell you what happened to me." Marcus sat down. "I am listening." 2 years ago, Officer Hollis pulled me over. He said my license plate light was out, but it was not out. I had just had my car inspected. He made me get out of the car. He searched my car. He said I looked nervous, and that gave him the right to search. He found nothing because there was nothing to find. But he kept me there for an hour. My kids were in the car crying and scared. He never apologized. He never admitted he was wrong. He just let me go with a warning for a broken light that was not broken. Why did you not file a complaint? Marcus asked. I did. I filed a complaint the next day. I wrote down everything that happened. I included my kids as witnesses. And you know what happened? Nothing. I got a letter 3 months later saying the investigation found no wrongdoing. They said Officer Hollis had followed proper procedures. Marcus closed his eyes. I am sorry that happened to you. I am not alone, Alicia said. After your story came out, I talked to other people in my neighborhood. 4 other people told me Officer Hollis pulled them over too. All black people. All in nice cars. All for reasons that were not real. None of them filed complaints because they thought it would not matter. Would you be willing to tell your story publicly? Marcus asked. There was a long pause. I do not know. I am scared. I do not want him coming after me again. He is on leave right now. He cannot pull you over. But what about his friends? What about the other officers who think like him? What if they start targeting me? Marcus understood her fear. It was the same fear he had felt standing on the side of the road with his hands on his car. It was the fear that made people stay quiet, that made injustice continue. I cannot promise nothing will happen, Marcus said, but I can promise that I will do everything I can to protect you. And I can promise that your story matters. It shows this was not just about me. It shows a pattern. Let me think about it, Alicia said. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus heard from 6 more people. All had been pulled over by Derek Hollis. All were people of color. All described similar experiences. False reasons for the stop, aggressive treatment, threats of search and arrest, and then being released with a warning or no citation at all. It was a pattern of harassment disguised as law enforcement. Marcus compiled all their stories. Elena helped him organize the information. They created a document showing Derek's pattern of behavior over 5 years. They showed how complaints had been filed and ignored. They showed how the system had protected him while failing the people he had harmed. The NAACP contacted Marcus. They wanted to help. The ACLU called too. They were filing a civil rights lawsuit against the police department for failing to address Derek's pattern of discrimination. They wanted Marcus to be part of it. At first, Marcus hesitated. He was a judge. He was supposed to be impartial above these kinds of fights. But Elena reminded him that he was also a citizen. He had rights. Those rights had been violated, and he had a responsibility to use his platform to help others. So Marcus agreed. He became the lead plaintiff in a civil rights lawsuit against the Charlotte Police Department. The news exploded again. This time the reaction was even more divided. Some praised Marcus for standing up for justice. Others accused him of destroying the police department's morale. The police union called him an enemy of law enforcement. Community activists called him a hero. Marcus received hate mail. Someone spray-painted race traitor on his garage door. Someone slashed his tires. Elena wanted to move, to go somewhere safer, but Marcus refused to leave his home. If we run, he said, they win. The arbitration hearing for Derek's termination was scheduled for 2 months later. It would be held in private, but the media would be allowed to attend. Marcus was called as a witness. The day of the hearing, Marcus wore his black robe, the same one he wore in court every day. He wanted Derek to see him as a judge, to understand the authority he had disrespected. The hearing room was small and plain. Derek sat at a table with his union lawyer and Tom Bradley. Derek wore his dress uniform, all his medals and commendations on display. He looked confident, almost smug. Marcus took the stand. Derek's lawyer questioned him aggressively. Judge Williams, is it not true that you have a history of ruling against police officers in court? I rule based on the law and the evidence, Marcus said. But you have dismissed cases brought by police officers, correct? When the evidence does not support the charges, yes. So you have a bias against law enforcement? I have a bias toward justice, Marcus said firmly. The lawyer tried to rattle him, but Marcus had been a trial lawyer before becoming a judge. He knew how to stay calm under pressure. He answered every question clearly and directly. He described exactly what Derek had done and why it was wrong. Then it was Officer Chen's turn. She walked to the stand in her uniform, her face serious. She testified about what she had witnessed that night. She testified about other times she had seen Derek focus on black drivers. She testified about the racist comments she had heard him make. Derek's lawyer tried to paint her as a disloyal officer seeking attention. But Chen did not waver. "I took an oath to serve and protect," she said. "That oath is not just about arresting criminals. It is about treating everyone with dignity and respect." Officer Hollis violated that oath repeatedly. I could not stay silent anymore. The hearing lasted 2 days. Witnesses testified. Evidence was presented. The arbitrator listened carefully to everything. At the end, Derek was allowed to speak. He stood up, his voice strong and unapologetic. "I was doing my job," he said. "I pulled over a vehicle for a legitimate traffic violation. The driver was combative and disrespectful. He tried to use his position to intimidate me. I did not back down because I do not care if someone is a judge or a janitor. Everyone follows the law. This is not about race. This is about a man who thinks he is above the law and a department that is too afraid to back its officers anymore." Marcus listened to Derek's words. He heard no remorse, no understanding, no acknowledgement of what he had done wrong. Derek truly believed he was the victim in this situation. The arbitrator said he would issue his decision in 2 weeks. Until then, Derek would remain on leave. Marcus left the hearing feeling drained. He had told his truth. He had fought back. Now all he could do was wait and hope that justice would be served. The 2 weeks of waiting felt like 2 months. Marcus tried to focus on his work at the courthouse, but his mind kept returning to the hearing. He replayed Derek's testimony in his head, the way Derek had shown no remorse, no understanding of what he had done wrong. Elena noticed Marcus was not sleeping well again. She found him in his home office late at night, reading articles about police misconduct cases, studying statistics on racial profiling, looking at outcomes from other arbitration hearings. "You need to rest," she told him. "I need to be prepared," Marcus said. "What if the arbitrator sides with Derek? What if they let him keep his job? What message does that send?" "Then we keep fighting," Elena said simply. "This does not end with one hearing." She was right, of course. The civil rights lawsuit was still moving forward. The ACLU had found 10 more people who had been pulled over by Derek, all people of color, all with similar stories. The pattern was undeniable. Chief Morrison had been quiet since the hearing. He had not reached out to Marcus. The department seemed to be waiting, holding its breath to see which way the wind would blow. Meanwhile, community activists organized rallies. They held one outside the police department headquarters with over 500 people. They held another outside City Hall demanding reforms. They chanted Marcus's name. They called him a symbol of resistance. Marcus attended one of the rallies. He had not planned to, but the organizers invited him and he felt he could not say no. When he arrived, the crowd erupted in cheers. People wanted to take photos with him. They wanted to shake his hand. They wanted to tell him their own stories of police harassment. An older black man approached Marcus, tears in his eyes. "My son was killed by police 5 years ago," the man said. "They said he reached for something in his pocket. It was his phone. They shot him 8 times. No one believed us. No one cared. But maybe now, because of you, people will start listening." Marcus hugged the man. He did not know what to say. What could he say? His traffic stop had not resulted in violence. He had gone home to his family that night. This man's son had not. A young woman told Marcus about being stopped and searched on her way to work. A teenager told him about being followed by police through his own neighborhood. An elderly woman told him about her grandson being arrested for no reason and spending 3 days in jail before charges were dropped. Marcus listened to all of them. Each story added weight to what he already knew. What happened to him was not unique. It was common. It was routine, and it had been happening for years while people in power looked the other way. When Marcus spoke to the crowd, he kept his remarks short. "I am not a hero," he said. "I am just someone who had the privilege of being believed when I spoke up. But there are thousands of people who spoke up before me and were ignored. This fight is for them. This fight is for everyone who has been treated unjustly by people who are supposed to protect us." The crowd cheered, but Marcus felt the weight of their expectations. They wanted him to fix everything. They wanted him to change a system that had been broken for generations. He did not know if he could do that. He only knew he had to try. The arbitrator's decision came on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was in court when his clerk brought him a note. "The decision is in. Derek Hollis has been terminated." Marcus felt relief wash over him, but the feeling was complicated. Derek losing his job did not undo what had happened. It did not erase the fear Marcus had felt that night. It did not compensate all the other people Derek had harassed over the years. The police union immediately announced they would appeal the decision. Tom Bradley held another press conference, his face red with anger. "This is a disgrace," Bradley said. "Officer Hollis has been fired for doing his job. He pulled over a vehicle. He investigated a possible crime. He showed restraint and professionalism. And he has been punished because the driver was connected and powerful. This sets a dangerous precedent. Officers will now be afraid to do their jobs. Criminals will feel emboldened. This city will be less safe because of this decision." The next day, Marcus learned something that made him furious. Derek had already found a new job. A police department in a small town 40 miles away had hired him. They said they had reviewed his record and believed he deserved a second chance. Marcus could not believe it. Derek had been fired for racial profiling and civil rights violations, and another department had hired him within 24 hours. It was exactly the problem with law enforcement. Bad cops just moved from one department to another. They were never truly held accountable. Marcus called a reporter from the Charlotte Observer. He gave an interview about Derek's new job. "This is why we need statewide standards," Marcus said. "We need a system that prevents officers who have been fired for misconduct from just moving to the next town over. Derek Hollis should not be allowed to wear a badge anywhere in North Carolina." The story got picked up nationally. Other states had decertification processes that prevented fired officers from being rehired. North Carolina did not. Marcus began pushing for legislation to change that. He contacted state legislators. He testified before committees. He wrote opinion pieces for newspapers. Elena helped him draft a proposed bill that would create a state board to review officer misconduct and revoke certifications when necessary. Some legislators were supportive. Others pushed back. One told Marcus privately, "You are asking us to go against every police union in the state. That is political suicide." "Then I guess we need to decide what is more important," Marcus said. "Political careers or public safety." The civil rights lawsuit moved forward. The ACLU lawyers deposed Chief Morrison, internal affairs investigators, and several supervisors who had reviewed complaints about Derek over the years. The depositions revealed a troubling pattern. Complaints from people of color were frequently dismissed as misunderstandings or exaggerations. Officers were given the benefit of the doubt even when the evidence suggested otherwise. The system was designed to protect officers, not the people they served. Marcus also learned something that disturbed him deeply. 3 of the people who had filed complaints about Derek had later been pulled over again by other officers and received citations for various violations. The timing seemed suspicious. It looked like retaliation. Officer Sarah Chen reached out to Marcus. She asked to meet with him privately. They met at a coffee shop far from the courthouse and the police department. Chen looked tired. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Since the hearing, things have been difficult at work. Some officers will not talk to me. They call me a snitch. Someone wrote traitor on my locker. My sergeant scheduled me for the worst shifts, the most dangerous calls." "I am sorry," Marcus said. "You did the right thing. I know, but it does not make it easier. I love being a police officer. I wanted to make a difference, to help people. But the culture in the department makes that almost impossible. If you try to speak up about problems, you become the problem. Have you filed a complaint? What good would that do? The same people I would complain to are the ones creating the hostile environment. Internal affairs works for the chief. The chief works for the city. Everyone is trying to protect the department's image, not fix what is broken." Chen told Marcus that she was not the only officer who had concerns. There were others who wanted reform but were afraid to speak up. They saw what happened to officers who challenged the system. They stayed quiet to protect their careers. "What if there was a way for you to speak up safely?" Marcus asked. "What if there was an independent board, made up of civilians that you could report to?" "That would help," Chen said. "But the union would fight it hard. They see civilian oversight as an attack on police authority." Marcus thought about that conversation for days. The problem was not just about individual bad cops like Derek. It was about a system that protected those cops and punished the good ones who tried to hold them accountable. 6 months after the traffic stop, the city council held public hearings on proposed police reforms. Marcus attended every hearing. So did dozens of community members. They all told their stories. They all demanded change. The police union showed up in force too. Dozens of officers in uniform filled the council chambers. They argued that the proposed reforms would make it impossible to do their jobs. They said crime would increase. They said officers would be afraid to make arrests. Marcus spoke at one of the hearings. He addressed the officers directly. "I understand your concerns," he said. "I understand that you have a difficult and dangerous job. I understand that you put your lives on the line every day. But what I experienced was not good police work. It was not a difficult split-second decision in a dangerous situation. It was harassment based on the color of my skin. And it was not an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern. The reforms being proposed are not about making your jobs harder. They are about making sure you do your jobs fairly. They are about rebuilding trust with the communities you serve." One officer stood up to respond. "Easy for you to say, Judge. You sit in a courtroom all day. You do not have to deal with criminals on the street. You do not have to make life and death decisions in seconds. You do not know what we face every day." "You are right," Marcus said calmly. "I do not do your job. But I do review your work. I see the arrests you make. I read the reports you write. I hear testimony about your actions. And I can tell you that good police work does not require treating people without dignity. Good police work does not require pulling over black drivers for no reason. Good police work is consistent with constitutional rights and basic human respect." The council chambers were silent. Then some people began to applaud. Not everyone, but enough. The city council voted to implement several reforms. Body cameras would be mandatory. A civilian review board would be created with real investigative power. Officers would receive ongoing training on implicit bias and de-escalation. A database would be created to track complaints and identify officers with patterns of misconduct. It was not everything Marcus had hoped for, but it was a start. Chief Morrison held a press conference after the vote. He looked uncomfortable but determined. "The Charlotte Police Department is committed to these reforms," he said. "We will implement them fully and transparently. We will work to rebuild trust with our community. We acknowledge that we have failed some members of our community in the past. We commit to doing better in the future." Marcus watched the press conference with Elena. "Do you believe him?" she asked. "I do not know," Marcus said, "but I am going to hold him to his word." Marcus accepted a position on the Civilian Review Board. He would serve for 3 years, overseeing the implementation of the reforms and reviewing complaints against officers. It would be unpaid work on top of his full-time job as a judge, but he felt he had to do it. On the first anniversary of the traffic stop, Marcus drove home the same route he had taken that night. He passed the spot where Derek had pulled him over. Someone had placed a small memorial there, flowers and a sign that said "Justice for All." Marcus pulled over and got out of his car. He stood there for a moment, remembering that night, remembering the fear and the anger and the determination to fight back. He thought about everything that had happened since then, all the changes that had been made, all the work that still needed to be done. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Alicia Thompson, the woman who had called him after seeing his story on the news. She had eventually agreed to speak publicly about her experience with Derek. Her testimony had been crucial in the lawsuit. The text said, "Thank you for giving me the courage to speak up. Because of you, I do not feel powerless anymore." Marcus read the message twice. Then he got back in his car and drove home to Elena. There was still a long way to go, but at least they were moving forward. 2 years had passed since the traffic stop that changed everything. Marcus sat in the Civilian Review Board meeting room, reading through the latest quarterly report on police stops in Charlotte. The numbers told a story that was both encouraging and sobering. Traffic stops of black drivers in predominantly white neighborhoods had decreased by 31% over the past 18 months. That was progress. But the numbers also showed that black drivers were still stopped at a rate 1.7 times higher than white drivers citywide. That meant the work was far from finished. Elena walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was now representing 3 clients in civil rights cases against police departments in other North Carolina cities. Marcus's case had opened doors, had made people realize they could fight back. "How are the numbers looking?" she asked. "Better than 2 years ago." "Not as good as they should be." Elena sat down next to him. "You know what I realized yesterday? We have been fighting this fight for so long that I almost forgot what normal life felt like." Marcus knew what she meant. Their lives had changed completely. He still served as a judge, But much of his time outside the courthouse was now devoted to police reform work. He spoke at conferences, consulted with other cities implementing reforms, trained new members of civilian review boards. The hate mail had mostly stopped, though Marcus still received occasional threatening messages. Someone had keyed his car 3 months ago. Someone had left a dead rat on his porch with a note that said snitches get stitches. But the support outweighed the hate. People stopped him on the street to thank him. Parents told him he was their hero. Young black lawyers said he had inspired them to fight harder for justice. The Civilian Review Board had reviewed 43 complaints against officers in the past 2 years. They had found misconduct in 18 cases. 3 officers had been fired. 7 had been suspended. 8 had received additional training. The board's recommendations were taken seriously now, though not without resistance from the police union. Marcus had learned that changing a system was slow, frustrating work. Every small victory was fought for. Every reform was challenged. But the victories were adding up. Officer Sarah Chin had been promoted to sergeant. She now helped train new recruits, teaching them about community policing and ethical decision-making. She told Marcus that the culture in the department was slowly changing. Younger officers were more open to reform. Older officers who resisted were gradually retiring or leaving for departments that did not require body cameras and civilian oversight. Derek Hollis had been fired from his second police job after just 6 months. Another complaint, another black driver, another obviously pretextual stop. This time his new department did not protect him. He tried to get hired at a third department, but no one would take him. Word had gotten around. Derek Hollis was radioactive. Last Marcus heard, Derek was working as a private security guard and trying to sue the city of Charlotte for wrongful termination and damage to his reputation. The lawsuit would go nowhere. Marcus knew that. But it showed that Derek still did not understand what he had done wrong. He still saw himself as the victim. Marcus received a call one afternoon from a state senator named Patricia Rodriguez. She was sponsoring the police decertification bill that Marcus had helped draft. The bill had failed the previous year, but Senator Rodriguez was trying again. "I think we have the votes this time," she told Marcus. "We have support from several Republican senators who are worried about liability costs to cities. We have support from Democrats who care about civil rights. And we have support from some police chiefs who are tired of problem officers moving from department to department." "What about the police unions?" Marcus asked. "They are still fighting it, but their opposition is not as strong as it was. I think they realize the public is not on their side on this issue." 2 months later, the bill passed. North Carolina now had a state board that could review officer misconduct and revoke certifications. Officers who were fired for serious violations could not just move to the next town over. It was not a perfect system, but it was better than what existed before. Marcus was invited to the bill signing ceremony. Governor Williams, no relation to Marcus, called him to the front of the room as she signed the legislation. "This bill exists because one man had the courage to speak up," the governor said. "Judge Marcus Williams was racially profiled by an officer who should have known better. He could have accepted an apology and moved on. Instead, he used his experience to fight for systemic change. He turned a personal injustice into a public good. That is the definition of leadership." The audience applauded. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the praise. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had been lucky enough to survive an encounter that too many others did not survive, and lucky enough to have a platform to demand change. After the ceremony, a young law student approached Marcus. His name was James Porter, and he was finishing his second year at North Carolina Central University School of Law. "Judge Williams," James said nervously, "I just wanted to tell you that your story changed my life. I was going to go into corporate law, make money, play it safe. But after I saw what you did, I realized I wanted to do something that mattered. I'm going to be a civil rights attorney. I want to fight the same fights you are fighting." Marcus shook his hand. "We need people like you. But I will warn you, it is not easy. You will face opposition. You will be called names. You will question whether you are making a difference." "But you made a difference," James said. "Maybe. Or maybe I just started a conversation that other people will have to continue. Real change takes generations, not years." That evening, Marcus drove home the same route he always took. As he turned onto Maple Grove Road, he saw the streetlights reflecting off the pavement, the same way they had 2 years ago. He passed the spot where Derek had pulled him over. The memorial was gone now, but Marcus still remembered exactly where it had been. His phone rang. It was Officer Chen. "Judge Williams, I wanted to give you a heads up about something. We just completed mandatory de-escalation training for all officers. During the training, several officers shared experiences where they realized they had handled situations poorly. One officer talked about pulling over a driver based on assumptions rather than actual violations. He did not name you specifically, but everyone knew what he was talking about. He said your case made him realize he needed to examine his own biases." "That is good to hear," Marcus said. "I know it does not make up for what happened to you, but it shows that people are listening, people are changing." After he hung up, Marcus thought about what Chen had said. One officer recognizing his bias was not enough. But it was something. It was a seed that might grow into larger change. When Marcus arrived home, Elena was making dinner. Their kitchen smelled like garlic and tomatoes. The television in the living room was playing the news. Marcus heard a story about a police reform bill passing in another state inspired by North Carolina's law. "Did you hear that?" Elena called from the kitchen. "Your work is spreading." Marcus took off his jacket and loosened his tie. He thought about all the people who had shared their stories with him over the past 2 years. He thought about Alicia Thompson and her children, crying in the back seat while Derek searched her car for no reason. He thought about the man whose son was killed by police, still waiting for accountability that might never come. He thought about Sarah Chen, facing hostility from her colleagues for doing the right thing. He thought about James Porter, the law student who wanted to fight for justice. None of these people should have needed a judge's traffic stop to make the system change. But maybe that was how change happened sometimes. It took the right person in the right place with the right platform, experiencing the same thing millions of others had experienced, but finally being believed. Marcus joined Elena in the kitchen. She handed him a wooden spoon to stir the sauce. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Fighting this fight? Our lives would be simpler if you had just accepted the apology and moved on." Marcus thought about the question. He thought about the hate mail and the threats. He thought about the long meetings and the frustrating setbacks. He thought about the nights he could not sleep, replaying that traffic stop over and over in his mind. "No," he said finally, "I do not regret it, because if I had stayed silent, Derek would still be out there pulling people over. The system would still be protecting bad cops, and all those people who shared their stories with me would still feel like no one cared what happened to them." 3 months later, Marcus was assigned to hear a case involving a police officer charged with assault. The officer, a young white man named Todd Reynolds, was accused of using excessive force during an arrest. The defendant he had arrested was a black teenager who had allegedly been shoplifting. Marcus read through the case file carefully. He watched the body camera footage. He saw Officer Reynolds slam the teenager against a wall, even though the teenager was not resisting. He heard Reynolds yell at the teenager, using language that was aggressive and demeaning. During the trial, Marcus listened to both sides. The prosecution argued that Reynolds had used unnecessary force. The defense argued that Reynolds had followed his training and the teenager's body language had been threatening. Marcus thought about his own experience. He thought about how differently his traffic stop might have gone if Derek had not worn a body camera, if Sarah Chen had not been there to witness it, if neighbors had not been recording. He thought about all the interactions that happened without cameras, without witnesses, without anyone to hold officers accountable. When it came time to issue his ruling, Marcus spoke directly to Officer Reynolds. "The badge you wear represents authority but also responsibility," Marcus said. "You are given power that most citizens do not have. You can stop people, search them, arrest them, even use force against them when necessary. But that power comes with the obligation to use it wisely and fairly. The video evidence shows that you used more force than was necessary in this situation. You escalated rather than de-escalated. You let your emotions rather than your training guide your actions." Marcus found Reynolds guilty of assault. He sentenced him to probation and mandatory additional training. He also ordered Reynolds to perform community service in the neighborhood where the incident had occurred. Some people criticized the sentence as too lenient. Others said it was too harsh. Marcus knew he could not please everyone. He had made the decision he thought was right based on the law and the evidence. After the trial, the teenager's mother approached Marcus in the courthouse hallway. She was a woman in her 40s wearing a nurse's uniform. "Thank you, Judge Williams," she said. "Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing my son. So many times, judges side with police no matter what the evidence shows. But you did not. You were fair?" Marcus did not tell her about his own experience with Derek. She probably already knew. Everyone seemed to know. But it did not matter why he had ruled the way he did. What mattered was that he had applied the law fairly. That night, Marcus sat in his home office updating his notes on police reform. He had been keeping a detailed record of everything that had happened since the traffic stop, all the changes that had been implemented, all the work that still needed to be done. He thought maybe someday he would write a book about it, or use it to teach a class on criminal justice reform. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Derek Hollis had been arrested. The charge was domestic assault. According to the report, Derek had gotten into an argument with his girlfriend and pushed her down a flight of stairs. She had a broken arm and filed charges. Marcus read the article twice. He felt a mix of emotions. He was not happy about Derek being arrested. He never wanted anyone to be hurt. But he felt vindicated in a way. The system had been right to fire Derek. He had been a danger not just in uniform but in his personal life too. Marcus thought about calling Elena, but she was already asleep. He closed his laptop and turned off the light in his office. He walked through his house, checking the locks on all the doors and windows. It was a habit he had developed after the threatening messages. Elena said he was being paranoid, but Marcus could not help it. In the bedroom, Elena was reading a book. She looked up when Marcus entered. "You are working too late again," she said. "I know. I am done now." Marcus got ready for bed and slipped under the covers next to Elena. She put down her book and turned off the lamp. In the darkness, Marcus thought about the traffic stop one more time. He thought about how that one moment, that one interaction, had changed the trajectory of his life. He had been pulled over hundreds of times before without incident. But that night with that officer, something had been different. And instead of letting it pass, instead of accepting it as just the way things were, Marcus had fought back. He thought about all the people who could not fight back, who did not have his resources or his platform. He thought about the systems that needed to change, the laws that needed to be passed, the training that needed to happen. He thought about how much work was still ahead, but he also thought about the progress that had been made, the numbers that showed fewer unjust stops, the officers who were examining their own biases, the laws that were being passed in other states, the young people like James Porter who were inspired to fight for justice. Change was slow. Change was hard. But change was happening. Marcus closed his eyes and finally, after 2 years of restless nights, he slept peacefully.